doing what you do?
Well, so in high school, my friends and I actually had a movement that was all about not letting boyfriends and guys we liked walk all over us. And as we went through that, we realized that it really extended beyond just relationships with boys into our whole lives. And so we always called ourselves warrior queens. It's like a reminder to be strong. And so in college, I was getting a journalism degree, and I decided I wanted to actually start a magazine that was very opposite of what like Cosmopolitan and Teen People were. And so we actually like I have a bunch of prototypes from a magazine that I had wanted to create, and so that's how I got into it in college. And so I started a blog as a means to grow my audience as I was learning all about how to create a magazine and all of that good stuff. And after college, I was a technology teacher, and there's just always this underlying push of wanting to empower women to embrace self-love, but I really couldn't narrow it down. I couldn't find my niche. And so my blog from the past, beawarriorqueen.com, if you went on it, you would see I went through a phase of talking about my wedding, a phase of being a wife, a phase of being a new mom. And then about around my daughter's first birthday, I had started a few months before I had started doing some webinars with one of my friends about self-love and just different aspects of it. And she and I and another girl started Shield Sisters Initiative in August of 2016. And they've both moved on into different projects, but we're all really still close. And within the last year, it's really narrowed down into that idea of sisterhood, and you're needing your people around you, because my big thing with self-love always was that you are on your self-love journey. Yes, it's about yourself, but you're not alone on your journey. And if you are alone and stuck in your head, then you're not giving yourself the true depth that you deserve, because you can't see all of that stuff. You have to have those other people to rely on,
Mhm.
and in turn you have to be relied on, because then you see where your strengths are and you see where your like what your passion is, and you can't discover all of that if you're just by yourself. And so that's kind of how it all began.
That's excellent. And I love this. Like when we were talking about this before, I thought it was so great because one of the things that I talk about with even my clients is finding the group of people to help be supportive, because so often in your life there are people that love you and they might mean really well for you, but they're not real support. They're not trying to help you move forward in your journey. And it might be no
Mm-hmm.
fault of their own. It just might be that they don't have the tools to help you on that journey. So it's so important to get people that are, like, some of the people, the clients that I have, they're like, you know what, I'm the only one I know that's trying to work on myself. I'm the only one who's trying to make my life better. And it feels so lonely. And that's kind of a sad thing, because it's like, well, really, we should all be kind of working on ourselves, and to feel lonely. I mean, there's so many people, we have so many similarities of people that are trying to make a better life for themselves. You know, finding that group of people to help support you when it's feeling really stressful is super important on the journey.
So I wanted to interrupt you for a second because I saw Dawn's comment where she says, that sounds great, but it's challenging to find those people you're talking about. And Dawn, that's exactly why I have Shield Sisters Initiative, is because I stand and I help you find those people in your life. That is what I do. And whether it's you finding a place within my tribe of people that I've built, because my Facebook group is got so many great women who've connected with each other, but then they've also moved off into smaller areas, but then also helping you to find those people in your regular life. Because, yeah, like you said, Stephanie, it's so important to have those people around you and to not feel lonely on your personal development journey. And it's so easy to feel lonely because um, as you are moving up and you are realizing different pieces and facets of yourself, you kind of do have to let fall all of those falsettos that were there and all of the negativity. And so you're moving up, and if your friends are also not moving up, then that causes a disconnect, and it's very common. I've gone through so many friend transitions. I actually even started like this mindset work on leaving people behind and knowing that they might catch up to me someday back in high school, because I was that girl who didn't want to let go of any friendships.
Mhm.
And so I'd feel so I'd have so much toxicity around me, and I was like, but they're my best friend, or but we've been friends for this long. And I changed schools a lot as a kid, so I definitely had a lot of like insecurities with losing friends, because I was always forced to make new friends. And so I realized that it's okay to, let them fall down, because if they aren't in a positive space for you, if they aren't helping you positively, then they're just holding you back. But if they're supporting you, and even if they don't understand where you are, there's still some hope for that friendship for right now. And the best thing is not to have a huge blowout fight, but to actually just calmly let it lay for a while and then see where you are.
Mhm.
Um, so my husband's watching it, and I can hear me talking across the room. I saw his name pop up, and then I heard my voice. Um, yeah, so it's definitely challenging to find those people, but it's so important to find them.
Mhm.
And you're not alone in trying to find those people.
And I'm just going to add, because specifically, we work with empowering women who have been in unhealthy relationships. Exactly what you just said is the same thing for your romantic relationships, because so often it's like, well, I've been with them for so long, and they're such a big part of my life, and I love them, and all these things, but your love is hurting you. That friendship that you've held on to for so long, how is that helping you become a better person? And if someone is actually causing you to not grow and holding you back and making you feel bad, and it could be because it's a toxic relationship, or maybe it's something abusive, but even if it's something where it's just they're holding you back, you need to learn when to let go of things. And it doesn't have to be, like you said, a big blowout thing. Sometimes it's like we're waiting for the big blowout, but sometimes you just have to know yourself well enough and say, hey, this is no longer serving me, and it's actually hurting me, so I need to grow and keep changing. Because we both have talked about how having a supportive partner is so important in the process. Having that person that is supportive, you be by yourself or have a supportive partner, but don't have a partner that's going to hold you back, because that's going to make everything a lot more difficult.
And the thing that I feel is so difficult to really embrace during that time when you're deciding if you are letting a person go or not is that fear that what if this is forever?
Mm.
And I've I've really firmly come to realize that 9.9 times out of 10, it's not forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you don't have that big blowout fight, because life kind of like life is very cyclical, and you come back, and where you are right now and where that person is right now, it might not be on the same level, but in 5 years, you guys might be back together. You guys might have gone through a lot of stuff and healed through a lot of stuff, and you can actually be together again, as long as the departure is one that's got mutual respect, and it's got none of that big blowout stuff. I mean, if you have the big blowout stuff, it is possible to get back to it. It's just a little more difficult, because then you have to work through the trust and the all of that stuff. Whereas if you can both be eye opened and feel aware of how you're feeling, then you're able to come back to a relationship, a friendship, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a business partnership, all of that.
Yeah. And it's really all about communication. I mean, it goes back to that. It's such an important thing. And don't be afraid to communicate your feelings, let someone know.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about creating our tribe, which is, again, just so, so, so important. I know one of the things you said was, well, let's see, why you need to be aware of who is in your tribe. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, how to really kind of focus on that?
Yeah, so it's like I said, it is so important to be aware of who's influencing you. And by knowing that, then you're able to go through life confidently, because our brains and our hearts are different, right? Our brain wants to compartmentalize everything. It wants to know where people fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And if your heart's in turmoil over a person, your brain's like, I don't know, where do I put this person? What is going on? And so then when you see that person, you have anxiety, you freeze, you start sweating, like all of the negative stuff happens because your brain doesn't know what to do and it's triggering all of these things. So it's really important to take a look at the people who are in your life on almost on a monthly, like every 3 months, quarterly type of basis, just because every person is constantly changing, and to see where you guys stand. And the reason I think that it's best to do it as often as that is because then you don't actually let it build up into anything major. You can see what's going on and see, okay, well, we've been miscommunicating on this front for a while. So if I'm miscommunicating on this front with this person, maybe I should talk about it instead of just letting it lie. Because if you just let it there sit under the surface, it's going to boil up in a year. But if you're actually actively assessing and processing your feelings, a year from now, you're not going to find yourself in that position. And so when I was actually in high school, I created this idea called the positive bins and the negative bins. And I actually have a worksheet on it that I do sometimes with some of my clients. And then there's a neutral bin, which is just kind of sits off to the side. And so someone who goes in your positive bin is going to be someone who encourages you, who lifts you up. And when you see them, you feel joyful, you feel like you want to talk to them, and you don't have any negative symptoms when you see them. A person in the negative bin is going to be the person who makes you panic, who makes you have those negative physical symptoms. Hi, baby. Okay, go back over there with daddy, okay? Okay, we're hugging, but I'm going to talk now, okay? And then, so then if you're in the negative bin, it's those people who are toxic in your life and you don't, or not yet toxic, but still impacting you negatively. And so when you think about each of your interactions, think about the text messages you guys have had, the phone calls. And if they're in the negative bin, it becomes easy for you to say, okay, this person's in this negative bin. This person is making me feel all of this yuckiness, and I don't want to feel that yuckiness. So I'm going to prepare myself whenever I do find myself in a situation to talk with them. Or if I find myself at a family gathering and they are there. Because if I know they're in the negative bin, then I can, on the drive over to the family party, give myself some affirmations, run through some scenarios on how the talking might go. Like if they're going to ask me about my job and I know that that upsets me, I can be prepared to answer with X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Versus just ignoring it and just arriving there and then them saying, hey, how's your job? And you just burst into tears. And they're like, everyone around you is like, is that person okay? What's happening? So being able to have someone identified as to where they are in your life and where they are right now, just like I said, it makes it easier to see where you can keep going and to keep growing.
And that's excellent because that's, I say that too, following your gut and your feeling. Do you feel energized when you're with someone or do you feel depleted? And you want to really try to limit your time with the depleted people because, and again, like you said, it could be family members. So even sometimes looking at the depleted, but it's a family member and you kind of still want them in your life. You don't really want to end that relationship, but they're a little bit rough to deal with. That's the kind of thing we have to say, okay, well, what lessons can I learn out of this person? And let me limit the time with them that I can have a little control of how I spend time with them. So,
and then two, you can also, if you know you're in a situation with someone that you can't avoid, that you're feeling negative, you can let the other person who's like most trusted around you, who's there, and let them know so that they can be aware. And if they see you start to feel triggered, they can swoop in and be like, oh, hey, come and get a drink of water over here with me, or text you or phone call you and you're like, oh, I got to go take this call. It's all of those little areas that you don't think about when you're living in that negative moment. Like I actually teach one of my master classes in the October, November. We talk about how your family can make you feel and how to prepare yourself for that, because a lot of people they only see some of these people once or twice a year at big Christmas gatherings or at Thanksgiving. And so they don't on a daily basis think of how they're negatively affected,
Mm-hmm.
but then they do get to that party and then it's all bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to identify all of that beforehand.
Yeah, that's excellent. So now one of the other things that you were going to answer is how to gracefully show some people the door. So how do you do that in a nice way? Because that's scary for a lot of
So
boundaries is scary.
it's that's so hard, right? It's
Yeah.
so hard. Especially because it's also weighted. You feel this like you don't want to let them down and you don't want to let yourself down and you don't know how they're going to react. So you're going to feel all anxious. And I always describe the feeling like a porcupine. Like, I'm like, I feel spiky and I don't want to feel spiky when I talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do these types of things, like starting out by categorizing everyone, and then you say, okay, so here's where this person's in my life. I know I'm going to need to say bye bye. So then I can start preparing some scripts for myself and I can work through the scenarios. Like I have an anxiety disorder, so working myself through scenarios really helps me when I'm in that moment so I don't have a full-blown panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is someone that I think maybe we need to not be as close right now, I try to come to them like open-hearted, open arms and with my ears open because you want to listen to what they're saying. And I say, like, hey, I've been noticing that we haven't been connecting on X, Y, and Z. And I want you to know that I am in this place in my life. And if we aren't fitting in this place right now, then I'm going to actually maybe quietly be in the background of your life. And it isn't because I don't love and care about you. I do. I love and care about you so much. But I need to focus on what's going on with me right now. And I need to focus on how I'm going to keep myself feeling at this place that I want to be in. And if that person comes back and is angry, then you can just say, I know you don't understand. I'm sorry, but I need to go. And then you leave.
Yes.
If they're angry, they're going to stay angry.
Mm-hmm.
If they're sad, hug them, talk about how you're sad too, but it doesn't mean that the friendship and the relationship is over because you guys can still connect and you guys can still talk, and it's just that you're not going to be as present. You aren't going to be bending yourself over backwards. And it's say your piece, listen to what they say, and then get yourself out of there. Because if you stay and you keep going back and forth and you respond to what they say, it's going to just leave you feeling toxic. So that's why I try to come prepared with what I'm going to say. I listen. I say, thank you so much for your words. I cannot wait until we are back on the same level or whatever. I cannot wait till we can connect again. And then I leave. And then if that person texts me and I'm still feeling all of the negative symptoms, then I'll like say like, hey, or yeah, everything's going well. Like keep the conversation short. If they call me, I probably won't answer a phone call because I'm more apt to be emotional on a phone call. But if they text me or Facebook me, I will communicate. And doing that has saved so many relationships in my life because I've set boundaries for myself. I let them know what my boundaries are. They chose to respect it or they chose to peace out, in which case that's on them because I gave them how I'm feeling, and I didn't make it about them whatsoever. I didn't say you do this, you do that. It's all about this is how I'm feeling, where I'm at, and it's just not connecting. And if you focus on that, and later they might say, how are we not connecting? And you can go into further detail, but don't make it like you do this and you do that. It's when you say the yous, it's always the I statements, right? That's what they say, always the I statements. But also you have to kind of word it in that way where it's like it's a connection error versus I'm feeling like you are abusing me or gaslighting me. Like, because if you tell someone they're gaslighting you or you tell someone I feel like you're abusing me because you use me too much, they're just going to hear all of those trigger negative words and they're just going to shut off and they're not going to listen to you anymore.
And they're going to be defensive, because who wants to be told how terrible they are? Nobody. I don't care what kind of guru you are. Nobody wants to hear a long list of why someone doesn't like you or whatever. And I think anyone who's listening, I mean, if you've ever watched one of my videos before, boundaries right there. I mean, Raewyn just explained everything when we talk about boundaries, and such a great example of how to set them, because you do have to keep the I statements. You do have to keep it about yourself. And again, you don't want to sit there and go back and forth on it, because it's not going to help anyone. It's going to escalate everything. Then you're going to get more frustrated. And what I find a lot of times what people do is, it's like they say what they have to say, and then it goes on from there. And then next thing you know, like, well, I tried the boundaries and we had a big blowout fight. It didn't work. It didn't leave. Like hug and release. Like, okay, I love you. This is what's going on for me, and I'm out. And then you both have a chance to kind of allow some time, like allow everything to settle. Back from got everything. If you don't, just like emotion, and then more and more, and then again, like, the friendship or relationship. So I love exactly everything that you said. That's great information.
Thanks. Yeah, it's so important to process it, and you can't process it immediately. You can't process it while you're in the conversation. You have to take that step back. But a lot of times taking that step back is the part that seems so scary and like forever to so many people. But if you also, one thing that I've thought of too is on occasion, I will give myself like a deadline. Like, okay, on this day, I will send this person a text message and try to reach out for them. And, I don't have to necessarily send them that text message, but in that moment when I'm saying goodbye to them, and in my head I tell myself that, it makes it not seem like forever. It makes it seem like, okay, well, I'm still going to text them on March 3rd, and, when March 3rd gets here, I'll talk to them again, and it'll be okay. And so kind of setting those, it's kind of like tricking your brain a little bit just to help you get past that fear.
Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. And then, okay, so the last thing that you want to talk about is that, well, I guess the other one we kind of talked about a little bit, but where do you find your tribe? How is it? Because that's the thing. I mean, I know for what I have found for a lot of clients is online is so great, because you can have that kind of networking online. So, whether you're part of one of our Facebook groups or whatever, I mean, it's so great to have that tribe of people that are supportive and helpful of you. But what about in real life? Sometimes it's like we have all this online thing, but we don't have real life people in our tribe. So how do we go about actually making real life friends that we can actually interact with?
So I try to start out with everyone, and I want to note that if you are introverted, this might be very, very difficult. I have an introverted client who she tries so hard to put herself out there into these in-person spaces, and sometimes it's too difficult, and that's okay. If you are introverted, this will definitely be a bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. So the first place I usually advise people to go is to find one of their passions that they are currently like knee deep in. So for me right now, I'm knee deep in being an entrepreneur. So I will find those places where I can connect with someone as an entrepreneur. So I will go and make a list of co-working spaces, local groups. If you are someone who likes to crochet and that's like your passion, you crochet 24/7. If you're not working or sleeping, you're crocheting. Or if you are someone who absolutely loves watching Friends, like you can quote every Friends episode, you can find those groups both online, but also there's websites like meetups.org that have those types of, like, there might be a Friends cosplay event where everyone is, at dressing up, or someone, you have to be Rachel or someone else is Chandler, or there could be a local craft gathering. And if you crochet, even though maybe not everyone else there crochets, you're going to find someone else who likes to do similar things. And maybe instead of crocheting, they like to knit, but you can still connect over that. It's still similar enough. So I always say look at what you're currently knee deep in, because that's going to be the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next place is to find some type of community that you feel safe in. So if you're spiritual or religious, finding a church, finding a temple, a mosque, whatever it is that you have your religion, whatever that is, find that location where those people gather. Um, if you are someone who immensely enjoys coffee, go to a coffee shop. People sitting at tables at coffee shops, they love to chat with new people. And if you go there regularly enough, you'll notice the people who are also there, and you'll naturally start a conversation. I go to a specific Starbucks by my daughter's preschool 3 days a week after I drop her off at preschool. I go there and I work for a little bit because I work really well out of the house. And I've noticed that there are at least 3 other people that I see there every single time I'm there. The barista is starting to get to know me. And, you just say hi. You don't have to go into this big long conversation. You can say hi, or maybe they're reading a book you just finished, or maybe you see their phone ringtone is a song you like. Like those are all things that people will pick up on each other. And you don't have to make the first move in any of these situations. You can go to an event and you can be sitting there quietly. And if you go often enough, if you just have the nerve to go to the event, someone's going to come over and talk to you. Someone who's more extroverted than you is going to show up and go over there. So finding those places, just going to places, we like to go to breweries and to like sit at the bar and at a restaurant, and I'll end up talking to some of those people at the bar because we're all interested in similar things, or we're watching the same sports game. So it seems really hard to find those people in your life, but if you start connecting on a similar topic,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll find those people because you'll keep talking, and you'll get deeper and deeper in all of those conversations. And as you get deeper, you'll realize if this person is a person who's going to be a friend and who's going to be supportive of me and I can open up to, or is this person's just someone who's also at the same place as me.
Mm-hmm. And if you're someone who is doing a business or something like that, sometimes it's someone to network with, or maybe it's someone who needs your services. I always find like we run into people for a reason. So the
Mm-hmm.
universe, brings us people for a specific reason. Sometimes it's to teach us a lesson. Sometimes it's because, they're exactly what we need at that point. We might not know what that is, but if we allow them in and we just kind of see what it is, there's a reason why we're meeting them. So give yourself the opportunity to have a conversation with someone, and you'll find it's fun. And actually you go places and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what kind of cool person am I going to meet? Or what kind of story? I mean, I always come back with stories. People are always like, Stephanie,
Yeah.
you talk to everybody. I'm like, yeah, and everybody talks to me. Like I must give off this like, some people have resting bitch face. I have the resting come talk to me face. Like there just
I
seems to
have the confide in me face. People tell me secrets all the time. And
yes,
then, like, immediately followed with, I have no idea why I just spilled that to you. And I'm like, everyone does it. Everyone tells me things.
yes.
I'm used to it. It's
And
just who I am.
too. So if it's not me, it's him. So it's one of us. Like we'll go places, and all of a sudden, the person checking us out is like telling us their deepest, darkest secrets, and we're like, "Oh well, hey, here's our car." It's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But it's just funny where it's like that's just we give, and I don't mind it. There's those moments where you're like, today I just want to be quiet. Like we all have I'm an extrovert, obviously, but there's moments where I just kind of want to be quiet and get into myself. But even then, it's like someone starts the conversation. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity to talk to someone different and kind of I love the different perspectives that you get to when you start
Hmm.
talking to other people. It's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Or it's just a little bit of a new way of looking at life, which is so cool. And like you said, some of those people might be exactly what you need for your in your tribe at that point. So that's excellent. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's weird. People come into your life when you need them. The universe has always got your back and it's always providing. I once connected with this girl at work over a shared band that we loved, and ended up within 6 weeks, I was living at her parents' house with her for a month because I found out I had 10 days to move out of the house I was living in. And I think we had already signed a lease on an apartment, but it wasn't going to be ready for a while, for like a whole another month. And so I lived with this girl that I had known for 6 weeks with her family. She was like, she and I were inseparable during that 6 weeks. After I moved out, we were still really close friends and worked together. And then maybe like 2 months later, some weird misunderstanding happened and we literally never spoke again.
Wow. And
And I lived at her house for a month,
yeah,
and to this day, I haven't spoken to her.
wow. That's interesting. And that close
It's
connection with someone, you know, that immediate close connection. I mean, one of my very good friends since college, we started talking after one of our classes about going to a rave. So this just shows like, you know, what I was doing back in college. We were going to go dancing and I was like, "Oh, you should come with me to this rave. You should go dancing. It's music, you just dance, whatever." She was like, "Okay." And we've been inseparable ever since. That was like 20 years ago. So, I mean, you just like never know what's going
You
to happen.
never know.
Conversation, like, come, let's go hang out and have fun. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so you just have to be open to it and you have to read other people and not be too, I would say not be too like, I need to find this person in my tribe. You have to let go of it. You have to be like, okay, I am feeling like I don't have, like someone's missing in my life. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to go and do things so that I can put myself out there and find that person. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to like hunt people down. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, or if they had a falling out with their best friend and they're like, I need a new best friend. I need a new person to spend all of my time with. And so then they start like talking too much to someone, and then that person is not ready to get into that level with you. And so then they panic and run away, and then you're like, what's wrong with me? Everything's wrong with me. I chase people away. And it's like, no, just go in it open, but also be able to read how that other person is feeling too. Don't go into it selfishly,
And
thinking like only what can I get out of it.
exactly. That neediness comes across so quickly. You can tell when someone is like desperately looking for someone to talk to. And that's not where we're talking about. When we're talking about this, it's like you're just sharing conversation with someone. And sometimes you connect on a way where you're like, wow, that was a really great conversation. And sometimes it's like, wow, that was really great. And you both feel this mutual, like, we need to keep this conversation going. But that when, and you know, and I don't care what kind of relationship it is, but if you're coming from a place of need, it tends to not go well. It should be a place of giving, you know, like giving and allowing to receive whatever information they're giving. That kind of exchange is a healthy one, but the place of like give me is never going to work out well for anybody.
Yeah. Or even if instead of give me like I'm giving you everything.
Yeah. Oh,
That also.
yeah.
Yeah. The both sides of that.
Good point. Yeah. And that happens a lot. People are like, "Oh, I gave them everything." And again, this could be a sexual relationship or a friend relationship. "Oh, I gave them everything and they still were mean to me." Well, cuz you kind of have to allow it's a relationship. So there needs to be some give and take. It can't all be just one-sided. Yeah.
And it also is never 50-50. So if you are going into something and thinking that it's going to be 50-50 and always mutual, you have to think about all of the other experiences, other emotions that the other person's having. And
Mhm.
so I try with all of my friends and relationships, family, my husband, I try not to have any expectation
Mhm.
from them. The only thing I try to have expectation of is myself. And knowing myself is imperative for that expectation, because if I can't I have no idea what they have going on. I only know what they tell me
Mhm.
and what I sense from them. And that could be completely different than what they're actually feeling.
Mhm. Yeah. So agree. Well, excellent. I know some people might have just come on. If you have any questions about what we talked about, feel free. And of course, this is going to be available, so it's going to be recorded. So if you missed anything and you want to go back, feel free to do that as well. If anybody has any questions, please ask now. So, Raewyn, is there anything you want to leave us with before you go?
Um, I don't know. We have, so my Facebook group is called the Shield Sister Sanctuary, and we really strive to have it as a safe place for people to come in and actually like bare parts of their soul and feel supported. Yes, it is an online space, but a lot of people actually have met up or have the potential to meet up because they live somewhat locally. And so, if you are looking for your tribe and you need help, I do have some like scripts that I've written to help guide you and figure out what it is that you might want to say to someone. And I have the sanctuary. So, if you guys feel free to reach out to me and send me a Facebook message, and I will invite you into my tribe and to see if maybe parts of my tribe might mesh into what you're looking for. And I know that we're going to have Stephanie over in the sanctuary as well one of these days, really soon.
I'm excited
Yeah.
about that. And if anybody wants to get into
Yes.
Raewyn, I know I put on, like on the invite, I put some of the websites and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. So definitely, like her page and follow her. And, obviously has lots of really great information to share. And it's always great to find a fellow sister in the women's empowerment, section to be like, wow, you're speaking my language. Like we could just go on and
Yes.
because it's like, yes, I totally understand what you're talking about because that's exactly, I get you.
And I'm so excited about your book because like my favorite activity in high school was to sit in the self-help section reading reading books. Like my friends and I, there were probably like three or four of us, and you could always on a Friday night when we're at the mall find us in the Barnes and Noble self-help section at least for 30 minutes just finding new books to read. And I know that there are tons of women and girls that still do that to this day.
Yeah.
I tend to read on my phone now, but
That was like my favorite. Go like between music and books, I could go and get lost for hours. That was like the best.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
Excellent. Well, if anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask afterwards. Those of you who are watching the recorded version, feel free to ask and one of us will respond. But definitely thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And I guess we'll see you for our next broadcast. I think that I have one coming up June 6th, specifically on this page. So if anybody's interested in watching the next
Awesome.
one, I'll be starting to post a little bit about that soon. So that'll be coming up. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. It was great. It was awesome talking to Raewyn. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.